The old man who knew everyone's secret. The old man told me I would spill my coffee before I even picked up the cup. I laughed, because that was the normal response when a stranger said something like that. I laughed right up until my hand twitched, the cup tilted, and dark liquid spread across the table exactly the way he'd described it would. The cafe went quiet for a moment, not because anyone else noticed what had happened, but because I suddenly felt like the room had shifted slightly off its axis. The old man stood behind the counter, wiping his hands on a cloth that looked older than the cafe itself, watching me with tired eyes that held no triumph, only recognition. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "You always look surprised." I asked him what he meant by that, but he'd already turned away, calling out another order without writing anything down. That should have been my cue to leave. Instead, I stayed. This cafe had been here longer than any of the surrounding shops. Same faded sign, same cracked tiles, same old man behind the counter every morning. I'd always thought of him as background noise, a fixture of the neighborhood. Until that moment, I'd never noticed how closely he watched everyone who walked through the door. The next customer entered in a rush, arguing loudly into his phone. The old man didn't look up when he spoke. "Tell her you're sorry now," he said. "You won't get another chance after lunch." The man froze. Slowly, he lowered the phone, his face draining of color. He whispered something into the receiver and hung up without another word. When he turned back toward the counter, the old man was already pouring his coffee. I told myself it was coincidence, pattern seeking, the brain's favorite trick, but it kept happening. A woman was warned not to sit near the window because the sunlight would make her think of the house she sold and regret it. A teenager was told not to check his messages yet, because today was not the day he was ready to read them. A regular was quietly informed that the interview he'd been obsessing over wouldn't matter by evening. Every prediction came true. I asked him how he knew. He looked at me for a long moment, then said, "Because I've seen you all make these choices already." That night, I couldn't sleep. The cafe felt lodged in my thoughts like a splinter. The next morning, I went back, half expecting it to be gone, replaced by something ordinary that would let me forget the whole thing. It wasn't. The old man greeted me by name before I spoke. He told me which table I would choose, how long I would hesitate before sitting, and which question I would finally ask. "You're wondering if this is some kind of trick," he said. "It's not." I asked him what it was. Then, he sighed and leaned closer, lowering his voice. "It's a loop." He explained it slowly, carefully, like someone who'd learned the danger of rushing. Every morning he woke up in the same bed, same aches in his bones, same light through the same cracked blinds. The same day waiting for him like a script he could no longer forget. At first, he thought he was losing his mind. Then he started noticing the repetitions, the same arguments, the same laughter, the same regrets unfolding in the same order. After a while, memory stopped resetting, even though everything else did. "You're all new to it," he said. "I'm not." I asked him why he didn't change things, why he didn't stop people from making mistakes. He looked around the cafe. I tried. For a long time, he told me about days where he warned everyone, days where he interfered, begged, shouted, days where he stayed in bed and refused to open the cafe at all. None of it mattered. The day always corrected itself. Events bent back into place. People found new ways to make the same choices. "What about me?" I asked. He met my eyes. "You're the only one who stays." That unsettled me more than anything else, he'd said. As the morning wore on, I noticed something else. The old man was tired not just physically, but in a way that suggested someone who had exhausted every version of hope available to them. His hand shook when he poured coffee, his voice faltered when he spoke certain names. Just before noon, he froze. His eyes went to the door. "Someone new," he whispered. "That doesn't happen often." The bell above the door rang, but no one entered. The old man's face paled. He looked at me, fear flickering through his carefully controlled expression. "That means I changed something yesterday," he said. "And I don't remember what." The world seemed to tilt. The sounds of the cafe dulled, like everything was being wrapped in cotton. He reached across the counter and gripped my wrist. If it works this time, you need to remember." "Remember what?" I asked. He smiled sadly. "Me." The lights flickered. The cafe dissolved. I woke up to the smell of coffee. The same cafe, the same morning, the same cracked tiles. But the counter was empty. Customers stood in line, confused, murmuring. Someone asked if the owner was late. I knew he wouldn't be coming. I stepped behind the counter without thinking. My hands moved on their own, remembering motions I didn't recall learning. I poured coffee for a woman and told her not to sit by the window. She looked at me strangely. And just like that, I understood. The day hadn't reset. It had moved on.